Hello. How's it going? Hi, it's Ken. You know that though. Let's see who's here. I don't assume, by the way, that there's going to be a roll call. Let me go through. There's Matthew, there's Brian, there's Bill, there's Webb, there's Hank, Roger. I don't remember who Smoke Eater is. I don't remember your real name, so we'll call you Smoke Eater for now. There's Chuck. Oh, look, there's John with the roll call. Matthew, Brian, Bill, Webb, Hank, Roger, Smoke Eater. John, of course, I'm mentioning himself. Chuck, Donna, Eugene, Frank, and Amy. Hi, everybody. It's good to see you. It is good to see you. I'm sorry, that little smirk made it look like I didn't really think so. I really do. I was just smirking about something else. Found my pen, by the way. It was in my pocket. Right. Let's go. And then we'll meet back here after. Bigger and better than a product. It is Wednesday, the 13th of January, 2021, and this is macOS Ken Live. Hi, everybody. Ken Ray welcoming you to another edition of macOS Ken Live, this thing that we do every afternoon. Sorry, people watching this live, sorry about that pause. I was literally hearing the music for the audio podcast in my head. If you're only getting the audio podcast, we do this live on YouTube every Monday through Friday, 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern. That's in the afternoon, by the way. I could stay up for 3:30 in the morning, but there would be fewer people. Anyway, we do this live thing Monday through Friday. Then I turn it around and put it out as a podcast. One of those things at least you know about because you're hearing me right now. I know you are. Second half of today's show, we're going to talk about reaction to today's big announcement from Apple, which means the first half of the show, we'll talk about the big announcement from Apple. There is a burning question that I have. Burning is kind of too strong a word. There is a real question that I have, though. The Racial Equity and Justice Initiative. Are we calling that Reggie? Because they say REJI all through the press release, and then they also say REJI apostrophe S's, point is, deal is, blah, blah, blah. And I say blah, 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 like it's not important. I think it's actually incredibly important, but we're not doing my reaction right now. We're doing that later. I'm going to call it Reggie. And if anybody says, don't call it Reggie, then I'll apologize and I'll stop calling it Reggie. In the meantime, though, I think about Mr. October. Reggie. Because I was a huge baseball fan when I was 6. So Apple has launched a major new racial equity and justice initiative project to challenge systemic racism, advance racial equality nationwide. That is the headline. I'm just going to be reading straight from a lot of the press release for the first part of the show, and then we'll do thoughts and stuff for the second part. Apple today announced a set of major new projects as part of its $100 million Racial Equity and Justice Initiative, or REGI, to help dismantle systemic barriers to opportunity and combat injustices faced by communities of color. These forward-looking and comprehensive efforts include the Propel Center, the first of its kind global innovation and learning hub for historically Black colleges and universities, an Apple Developer Academy to support coding and tech education for students in Detroit, and venture capital funding for Black and Brown entrepreneurs. Together, Apple's Racial Equity and Justice Initiative commitments aim to expand opportunities for communities of color across the country and to help build the next generation of diverse leaders. Apple CEO Tim Cook was quoted as saying, "We are all accountable to the urgent work of building a more just, equitable world. More equitable world. And these new projects send a clear signal of Apple's enduring commitment. We're launching Reggie's latest initiatives with partners across a broad range of industries and backgrounds, from students to teachers, developers to entrepreneurs, and community organizers to justice advocates, working together to empower communities that have borne the brunt of racism and discrimination for far too long. We are honored to help bring this vision to bear and to match our words and actions to the values of equity and inclusion we have always prized at Apple." So if you don't know what the Racial Equity and Justice Initiative is, last June, Apple announced Reggie in the wake of the protests around the world following the killings of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and countless others. The initiative builds on Apple's work to advance racial equity in education, the economy, and the criminal justice system, and is led by Apple's Vice President of Environment, Policy, and Social Initiatives, Lisa Jackson. Reggie compliments Apple's internal efforts to improve diversity and inclusion at every level of the company. Jackson was quoted as saying, "Every individual deserves equal access to opportunity, regardless of skin color or zip code. For too long, communities of color have faced gross injustices and institutional barriers to their pursuit of the American dream, and we are proud to lend our voices and resources to build new engines of opportunity that empower, inspire, and create meaningful change." You get two buildings out of it. Sorry. It's not a thing you can look at, right? It's sort of a thing you have to wrap your head around. But, there were artistic renderings of buildings that are going to be built, including the Propel Center, which sounds really exciting. Apple is working with Southern Company and a range of community stakeholders to support the launch of the Propel Center, the first of its kind innovation and learning hub for the HBCU community. Apple's $25 million contribution will enable the Propel Center to support HBCU students and faculty through a robust virtual platform, a physical campus in the historic Atlanta University Center, as well as on-campus activations at partner institutions. And finally, Apple is building its first U.S. Developer Academy to open in downtown Detroit. Company will invest, they're building that, and then they're also investing $10 million with Harlem Capital, an early-stage venture capital firm based in New York, to support its investments in 1,000 companies with diverse founders over the next 20 years. And then there's other money that's being spent other places with an emphasis on underserved communities. And that's the basics of the news. And the rest of it's just going to be me rambling. So before I do that, let me tell you about some other rambling I'm going to do. I produce another show called The Checklist, brought to you by Secure Mac. Sorry, I was trying to remember if I was doing in a few minutes of the checklist. We're doing the checklist for tomorrow, though, because tomorrow, Nick Leone, who writes for Secure Mac, is actually going to be joining us to talk about the top 5 Mac malware for 2020. You still have to worry about them. It's just they hit in 2020. Some interesting trends, actually. Getting prepared for the show, I was kind of, I learned from it, and that's always one of my favorite things, because if I learn from the show, I'm assuming that other people out there are learning as well. So tomorrow morning, look for The Checklist by Secure Mac. A couple of ways to get that. You can search for Secure Mac wherever you get podcasts. You can also search for Checklist, but when we named that show, there was only one Checklist podcast. Now there are several. So maybe search for Secure Mac, or you can just go to the source. securemac.com/checklist is the show's website. Got all the shows that we've ever done right there. And tomorrow's will probably be up there Friday, actually, because time zones and different people and things like that. So I've been wrestling with reaction to Apple's announcement. And I'm doing what I have heard people call borrowing trouble. I'm assuming that there are going to be people who are going to be upset by this. And I don't know why I'm assuming that, except, I watch TV and I live on the planet. Gayle King said that she thought that what Apple was doing was bigger and better than a product. And I agree. I mean, I guess it depends on the product, but I think what they're doing is kind of incredible, but we'll come back to why in a minute. The very first thing that I woke up to was reaction from some people who kind of want to be cool. And I'm not, it's fine. Michael Stieber over on 9 to 5 Mac. After the announcement was made, after we knew what it was, and of course yesterday, and we talked about this on this show yesterday, the second somebody said it's going to be COVID related, I couldn't get my head around anything else. Yes, it's going to be COVID related, because what else is going to be that big a deal? And I would argue that COVID related something would have been a bigger deal in the more immediate. I assume that other people are going to figure out how to get us all vaccinated. And so, as far as a long term play, this is a great long term play that Apple is making. Not just a play for Apple, but it's not bad for Apple either. But anyway, I mentioned Michael Stieber. And the reason I mentioned Michael Stieber is because after the announcement was made, Michael Stieber said, if this announcement was about stores and vaccines, inherently people topics, wouldn't the interview have been with Deirdre, meaning Deirdre O'Brien, Apple's head of people? And then there was a little like smiley winky face or something after that. He went on to say, I know we all want the shot in the arm, but I think it's important to remember that stores aren't simply fallow boxes, even when closed, lots of moving parts. Dude, don't go back and say, well, we all knew it wasn't going to be that after it's done. Plant your flag beforehand if you really think it's not that. Otherwise, just be excited about the news that they did. Coming out afterwards and saying, well, we all knew this, none of us knew. None of us knew. If any of us had known, we'd have all been saying the day before. Instead, we were all guessing. And I don't know why that bothers me so much, except that it sort of detracts from the importance of the news that they actually made. Sorry. Eugene also wrote to me on Twitter, and I don't want to argue with Eugene, but I kind of want to pull him back from something a tiny bit. 3 tweets he sent me. I didn't catalog everyone's thoughts during the live show yesterday, but I think we all missed on the Tim Cook announcement bingo card. You're absolutely right with that. Sort of obvious in retrospect, kind of disagree there. But the fact that several of us fixated on possible COVID initiative says a lot about how people look at the world. I agree with that. Could very much be a perfect example of privilege in action and perspective that we didn't see it. I don't think so. There are plenty of ways that we all exert or exhibit our privilege. I don't think missing this is one of those ways. So I think you might be beating up on yourself a tiny bit, and I'm going to encourage you to not. COVID, privacy, jobs, dreamers, work with the HBCUs, worked with underdeveloped or underserved communities, work with underdeveloped communities around the world. They could have talked about China. They could have talked about the Uyghurs. There are all kinds of problems and social injustices that Apple might have addressed. The fact that you missed one, that we all missed one, I don't think speaks to privilege. I think it actually speaks to the number of things that Apple could have aimed for. So cut yourself some slack. That's an order. I can't give orders, but that's my suggestion to you. So I've had to do some soul searching. A tiny bit, just a tiny bit of soul searching, because I will tell you honestly, it happened right before I went to sleep. Because anybody who follows me knows that I stay up far too late. I sleep too late. I work overnight. So right as I was going to sleep, Apple had released its announcement about what it was doing. The HSBCUs. HSBC is a bank. HBCU is the historically black colleges and universities. They announced what they were doing as far as the Reggie thing, as far as donations. And I gotta confess, and I feel terrible about it. And it's true. I feel terrible about it. My immediate thought was, that's kind of disappointing because it's not for me. It is. And that's what disappoints me. The fact that, and there's my privilege, that I looked at it and thought, that doesn't really affect me. It does. It affects all of us. And it's wonderful. A rising tide lifts all boats. So there. You want to be selfish about it? Apple's going to invest all this money. It's going to go to all these people who wouldn't have had these opportunities before. Maybe that ends up getting me a job. Maybe that ends up developing some product that I end up loving. Maybe that just ends up making different cities across the country better. Because here's the thing, all of those people who are going to then become entrepreneurs are going to go places where it's easier to make money. And they're going to make those communities better. And that ends up being better for everybody. Last time I checked, I was part of everybody. Therefore, it's better for me. If you're looking at this and saying, that's for them, come back into the tent. There's room. This is for all of us. This introduces ideas that we just wouldn't have because of the way that we grew up. I grew up better than a lot of people. I grew up worse off than a lot of other people. The more wealthy might actually have ideas that I will never have because that's not my experience, and the less well off will have other ideas that I won't have because that's not my experience. And if someone gives everybody a chance to get their ideas out there, that ends up being better for all of us, or potentially ends up being better for all of us anyway. There's no shot if people who are not being served are not being served. And there's more jobs and all that stuff too. All that's fantastic. This is for everybody. There was a guy, and I may have told this story here before. I can't remember. I was having my taxes done at a H&R Block, and this is not an endorsement. It's just where I was. It's back when I lived in Buffalo. It was when Bernie Sanders was still running as president. So this was like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. It was going into 2016. And he was talking about the fact that Bernie Sanders wanted to make college free for everybody. And he said, nobody did that for me. Well, no, that's the point. Nobody did that for anybody before. If we come to a place where we can do that, and look, we can argue about whether college should be free for everybody or not. The point is, though, just because you didn't have it doesn't mean somebody else shouldn't. Imagine if our parents had said, well, we didn't have internet, why should you? Or their parents had said, well, we didn't have an interstate system, why should you? Right? I'm sorry if you didn't have all the opportunities that you feel like you should have had. Doesn't mean other people don't deserve opportunities. Take it up with your folks. And I don't know why I assume that there's going to be a fight, except, like I say, I read the news. There's always a fight. Gail King said that this was bigger and better than a product. And I agree, because we have no idea how much good is going to come from this. We have no idea how many products are going to come from this. We have no idea how many businesses are going to grow around this. And I don't even just mean the businesses that Apple is investing in. I mean the sandwich shop next to the place that Apple is building in Detroit that currently has nobody or may not even exist right now. But once people start going there, they're going to be hungry and other people are going to want food. And other people are going to be able to make that food for them and sell it to them. And they're going to be able to send their kid to college because they have a business that is suddenly thriving. It is a ripple effect. It is the rising tide raising all boats. It is bigger and better than a product because it could yield so many and so much. Also, I hate morning news. Not just because I'm not up for it. Man alive. That interview was cut 7 ways to Sunday. And it was only Wednesday. There was another bit of news, by the way. Tim Cook, not surprisingly, actually, Tim Cook said that Parler could get back into the App Store if it cleaned up its act. So, of course, it's not coming back to the App Store. But, I mean, it's the same thing you said about Epic, right? Or Fortnite. Yeah, we'd love to have them back. Just play by the rules. That's all we ask. Kind of like people who play Fortnite. So I think that's going to do this for today. Boy, these shows are short, aren't they? When there's one topic, well, two. When there's one topic that's dominating your mind as far as Apple stuff, yeah, then it gets to be shorter shows. But ooh, packed full of passion. If you're in the chat room, please stay in the chat room. I'll be by momentarily. If you're not in the chat room, we save a seat for you every day. We save a seat for you every day. 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern. In the afternoon or evening, I might add, youtube.com/Ken Ray if you want to stop by and say hey. Got macOS Ken tomorrow morning, got In a Few Minutes tomorrow morning, got the checklist tomorrow morning, and we will do this again tomorrow afternoon. Well, this or something like it. Talk to you soon. Yeah, I stuck out my tongue. I stuck out my tongue again, because sometimes I do that. I wear my heart on my sleeve, I put my guts on the table, and I stick my tongue out at you when I'm done. Sounds like the worst meal ever. Hey, David's getting a shot tomorrow. I assume you mean that in a vaccine way, not a Alexander Hamilton Either one. Don't give up your shot. Amy's eating an impeachment. I don't get it. Sorry. There's the roll call. All right, hold on. We're getting closer. Smoke eater is Tim. I assume not cook. Oh, sorry. I sniffled right into the microphone. God, I have no. Hey, Rob's here. Hello, Rob. Hey, Eugene's here. Cut yourself some slack, Eugene. You deserve it. Lord, I was born a rambling man, Frank. Trying to make a living. Why would people be upset about equality? Ask the people who fear change. Cool. Yeah, I get it. Eugene says he wasn't feeling bad about missing it. He just realized that he was thinking about it from the lens of what would be good for him. See, there, I made it easy for you. It's still good for you. It's just not as much fun because you can't open it and because it takes time and we may never actually see. Right? If Apple builds a car, we're going to see a car. If Apple invests in the future, well, we're going to see the future too, but won't necessarily know how it happened or why. Brian's got his first. Good luck to all of you. I haven't even started looking into. Apparently, in my county, there is a website that I can go to where I can sign up that will tell me when I'll eventually be eligible. I believe I am in a. Well, I'm obviously not a frontline worker, and I'm not quite old enough, I think, to be like high risk. I'm probably old enough that I'm like, next. I haven't even started looking into it yet, honestly, because I'm just not going anywhere or doing anything except for the store, which every time I do that, I'm like, well, this was stupid. And that's just the grocery store. We didn't have McRib. Why should you? Nobody should have McRib. Nobody. A good pulled pork sandwich, I'm all about. But listen, you can't have a rib sandwich because rib sandwiches would involve bones. McRib is just you're just like making Play-Doh food at that point. Now I want a pulled pork sandwich too. See what you did, Frank? God, I'm not gonna say you're the worst because you're not. Yeah, Tim says if we lived off the "we didn't have an idea," companies like Apple wouldn't exist. See? Tim gets it. Remember when people wanted the next generation to have it better than them? Whatever happened to that? Um, did they ever want that for everybody, or did they just want it for their kids? I'm not. I'm look. I agree with you. We should all want better for everybody. I'm always confused by people who don't. But Parler could get back in the App Store. That's epic. What he said was, they have to. They have to. I mean, he basically said the same thing that I think Apple was not being completely genuine when they said you've got 24 hours to fix this because they knew that Parler couldn't fix it in 24 hours. But it really did highlight how off they were. Right? They could go back in. The only thing is, the only reason anybody wants to be on Parler is because or Parlay is because they can go there and spew their hate and plan the revolution. And if they actually start moderating that, so you can't go there and spew your hate and plan your revolution, well, then who cares? It's just another one of those apps like Parler, OR, that suddenly went up. You know what I'm talking about. Eugene put in the end of the show marker. You guys are nuts. I mean, in a good way. I don't mean nuts. I mean, you're a fine group of people. I was going to make a joke. Do you remember I don't wanna make that joke about you, though, because 'cause you're a fine group of people. I wanna tell you the joke, though, so you know what I'm talking about. This is not you. What is it? In, Roxanne, in the movie Roxanne, the Fred Willard character is toasting everybody because, they put out a fire. The fire department finally put out a fire rather than start them, which was the way of the fire department there. And Fred Willard was toasting everybody, and he says, "I would rather be with you people than the best people in the world." That's the joke. But you people are aces in my book, so that's why I don't wanna make that joke about you. Hmm. Hey, that's nice, Bill. I like that. I could try that. Thanks for flying with macOS Ken Live. Please stay in the chat room with your seatbelts fastened until the post podcast chat has come to a complete stop. Nice. I like that. Big as the Apple news is, I kind of enjoy implied screw you to all those white supremacists in the news lately. That's interesting. That's Hank, by the way, saying that. Yeah, the cool thing though is this was planned before last week, which is great. That was the thing that one of the things that Gail Cook, that Gail King said in teasing today's interview. This was something they had planned, a while back. Still don't understand why she went to the Apple store, unless it was to keep it secret or just to show off, listen, CBS, we will give you access to this because the other thing she said they actually closed their Apple store they closed part of the store to do the interview. So there's a subtle little Apple's still open, by the way, depending on where you live, and also look how nice the store looks behind her. You can go there and call Tim Cook. I don't think you actually can. John is in phase 1B, tier 2. I don't even know what that means. I mean, I know what it means, but what does that mean? You're in phase 1B, tier 2. What is it? So, like, do I get an inhaler then? I don't. It doesn't even make any sense. Wouldn't 1 through 9 make sense, or A through G, or something like that? They also have a sign up for here that is suddenly there's suddenly an opening. You have to be able to get there within 30 minutes. Oh man. Well, theoretically, nobody's going anywhere or doing anything. But yeah, that stinks. One C. You see, it doesn't make any sense. Frank says he's in 1CT. That's nothing. That means I don't. Hey, Sam Montooth is here. Baseman Sam. Good to see you, man. If you're not here tomorrow. Dave, if you're not here, David, excuse me, if you're not here tomorrow, we're not going to blame the vaccine. We'll blame the line. If you're not here day after tomorrow, we might have questions for the good people at Moderna. Oh, John says that the can't even remember what his THX 1138 thing means that he can have the shot before I can. That's fine. I hate shots. I'll wait. I'm not going anywhere, John. Yeah, well, and now comes the time. Yeah, so funny story. Gadget Virtuoso says that he emailed me because I asked him to, but he hasn't heard from me. Yeah, I got to go back and remember why I asked you to email me. I think it has to do with doing IT for a large organization. Actually, curious about security type stuff and things like that. I'm gonna try to clear that part of my head and remember. And I apologize. I did get your email though, and thank you very much. And I will get back to you. Sam, you're 1B. You get the vaccine probably in early February. All right, maybe I should actually check because you're younger than I am. You don't just look younger, you look younger than everybody. And I'm not sure. Well, whatever. I'm not worried about it. Hey, I'm happy for you. Wouldn't it be funny if after that whole rant, I'm like, that's not fair. Why does anybody get it before me? I'm happy for you. Oh, are you physically teaching, Sam? Oh, you know what? We should talk offline because people should, go about their day. And I actually have 2 shows to write and 3 shows to produce between now and tomorrow. Plus, I got to turn this one around too. Um, Thanks everybody for being here, for hanging out afterwards, for all the support. I can't thank you enough for that. I'm leaving. Well, I'm not leaving because I don't go anywhere, but I'm leaving. Take care.